I sent Mo a message on Monday night, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight from James Harden's Instagram, because James Harden, I don't know if he's trying to hint as if I'm moving and I'm unhappy in the situation I'm in, or I'm doubling down and I'm sticking with my franchise. We all know from the personal aspects, he loves Houston. But at the same time, we can all see with the Covington trade, Russell Westbrook rumbers, that this is falling apart very quickly for the Rockets. So my second hot take is actually going to come from Josh Hart. Yeah, gentlemen, he's already said that 2020 is over. And if James Harden goes to Brooklyn, then I'll see y'all in 2022 because they've got 2021. Yeah, and I agree with him. BJ, if Harden goes to the Nets, they are unstoppable.
Well, on paper, it certainly would appear that way, but I don't think this is a hot take, and I'm going to tell you why. At some point, you're going to have to ask yourself this question. There's only one ball out there. I have not one, not two, but I have three guys that's very capable at any given night of going for 50 or more points. Well, last time I checked, only one of those guys are going to shoot. That means the other two are going to be on the wing or, having to take a lesser role. These guys are all prolific offensive players, to the 10th degree. If you put Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden offensively, it's phenomenal. But who are you going to give the ball to? Because all of those guys, and all of them, are very, very capable of just erupting at any given time. I don't like the spacing on the floor. I don't like the chemistry that's needed to win a championship. But certainly as an offensive threat, you're excited if you really love that side of the ball. But I'm going to ask myself the biggest question. Who are they going to stop? Who's going to play defense with this group? And more importantly, who's going to be the first guy to become a facilitator on this team? So offensively, if you're just saying one-on-one basketball, yeah, I agree with you. But someone's going to have to pass. Someone's going to have to set screens. Someone's going to have to make the hockey assist. And I don't know which one is going to give up that opportunity to do what they all do best, which is to put that ball in the basket.
This isn't me labeling Mike D'Antoni as a coach that doesn't want to focus on the defensive side of the game. But all I'm going to say is D'Antoni joins the Nets coaching staff, and all of a sudden you're talking about three of the most generational offensive players of our generation anyway, all of a sudden being linked to play together. So Mo, I need to know, do you believe that this is actually a legitimate hot take? If James Harden does join the Nets, does that make them unstoppable?
Well, first and foremost, Jaydee, I have to address the take itself. If I'm a GM or a coach of an NBA team and one of my players is sat on Twitter talking about, no, we may as well not try this year. No, the Brooklyn Nets are going to win it. First of all, what kind of mentality is that as an athlete and as a competitor? That really raises some questions for me. I wasn't, when I saw that tweet from Josh Hart, it made me think, hold on a sec. This is the kind of thing that I would expect to see from a James Harden Stan account, not from an NBA player. So that's my opinion on that take. Here's my thing with it, right? I don't think we've ever seen a team with, let's say they're three of the top 5 scorers in the league right now, all on one squad. Let's be completely honest. If they can get it together and, play with that chemistry, no one's going to be able to guard this team because you've got 3 of the best scorers on earth playing in the same team. BJ, you're completely right with their defensive concerns. That's going to have to be an issue that they address. And if they do trade for James Harden, they're going to give up significant depth as well. So the depth and the defense are big question marks for me. But everyone's talking about this chemistry. And for me, it's a chance for these guys to prove everyone wrong. We all know that KD spends a lot of time on Twitter, seeing what people think of him. And we all know Kyrie has his mentality, if we'll call it like that. And, James Harden has heard the criticisms about him not having a ring. And, when these 3 guys come together, I've heard that they've been working out, Durant and Harden have been working out in LA over the past few weeks. They definitely are trying to put this in play themselves. Now, this kind of reminds me almost of when Danny Ainge put together the Big 3 in Boston in 2007, because Kevin Garnett was that guy in Minnesota. He'd won MVPs and all of that there. Paul Pierce was that guy in Boston. He had the ball in his hands all of the time. And Ray Allen, people have only seen Ray Allen on the Celtics and the Heat. They think he's a spot-up shooter. But don't be fooled. Ray Allen on the Sonics and Ray Allen on the Bucks, that boy was a problem. But those 3 got together and they put their egos aside, and collectively, all 3 of them sacrificed for the betterment of the team. The question is whether these guys at this stage of their career are now willing to do that. KD had a taste of that in Golden State. Kyrie's seen things go horribly wrong. And the other thing is, he didn't get along with the guys in Boston. He was unhappy with Tatum and Brown taking those shots. But they're younger guys. Maybe he'll have a higher level of respect for the Harden and the Durant of the team because they're older. They've got more experience. They've been to the finals before. And then, they're looking at the other pieces that are coming in as well. They're talking about getting Serge Ibaka. You've got DeAndre Jordan anchoring it. So I don't think they're going to be a great defensive team, no. But it's going to be one of those things, can you outscore them? Because with those three on the court, you can try and shut down one, you can try and shut down two. But I don't think we've ever seen a three-headed scoring monster like this before in this league.
BJ,
I just want to see Mike D'Antoni. How excited you think Coach D'Antoni will be trying to devise his offensive game plan with these three scorers?
Smiling now.
I mean, I don't know what he would do. He's probably going crazy right now. I mean, offensively,
this is everything he's dreamt
it
of.
will be fun to watch.
We're talking about Mike D'Antoni.
No, I do want to know because look. Go for it. No, you're right.
We're forgetting that Steve Nash is the actual head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. So I think Steve Nash is looking at this team and saying, "Hey, man, I'm not that old. I'm still in good shape. Let me be the player coach. Let me throw some dimes out to Harden and KD and get this offense popping because, boy, it's going to be crazy if they can get together."
I need to ask both of you because there's going to be, let's say this does work. Let's say hypothetically this does work. James Harden does become a Brooklyn Net and they win a championship as would be expected if they were to become the favorites. I don't know how this works within the media circuit in comparison to the players. So I need to ask a former player, especially someone that's a champion. Are all rings valued the same? And if KD does win this ring with Harden, and you compare it to the two rings he won in Golden State with a prime Steph and a prime Clay, are we going to look at his sort of legacy the same way?
Well, I think now more so than any time since I can recall, since I started playing professionally or been involved in the NBA, there are strong narratives that we have coming into every season. But when you go through the season and you play and you reflect upon what happened and how difficult it is to win, it is very difficult to win in the NBA period, let alone win a championship. So the value of winning always takes precedent of everything that's going on because every season brings about its own set of challenges. Winning in the bubble brought about a challenge that I can't imagine because I've never played in circumstances that these young men had to play under in this, this championship that we just saw was won by the Lakers. So every season is different, but the difficulty, guys, of winning, it's very difficult to win in this league, let alone a championship. And it requires a lot of things. It requires some luck in there as well. And most importantly, you got to have the talent to do it. So I give all championships, no matter how they come about, whether you get a big three, a big two, or what have you, it is very difficult to win. And I always give the utmost respect to anyone that's able to pull that marathon of a season because it requires everything that you have, not only individually, collectively as a group.
I just want to say, for reference, that's our third Nipsey Hussle reference that we've made on this show already. Yeah. but Mo, I have to ask you because we've seen three elite players come together before and it hasn't always worked. You think back, look, you've been covering this league a long time. So they tried it in Houston with Pippen, a larger one, and Barkley. That didn't work out. They tried it in Houston twice with Barkley, a larger one, and Drexler. That didn't work out. So sometimes you can get Hall of Fame talents together and there is chemistry issues. So I want to know from your perspective, do you actually see this working out?
The Houston teams, I think the guys were all a little bit past their primes, whereas this now, depending on how these two Brooklyn guys come off their injuries, they are joining a guy who's up there for the MVP conversation every year. My whole take on this trade, though, is if you're the Houston Rockets, why on earth are you pulling this trade up? Like all these questions about how they're going to fit together. What is going through your head in the Houston Rockets head office right now? Okay, let's look at it like this. You have in your hands, right, James Harden, the best scorer in the NBA right now, or second best, depending on how you rank it, right? A perennial MVP candidate, all-star. He can give you 30 a night. If you wanted to, he'd give you 40 a night. Are you telling me you're really going to give him up for Spencer Dinwiddie, Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, and some terrible draft picks? I think that would be an awful trade. Surely out of the other 29 teams in the league, unless you're already set on contending and you can't physically add James Harden or you don't have any assets to give up, surely you can get a better offer. Because I look at it like this, right? Paul George, who isn't as good as James Harden, he got traded for good draft picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a young piece that you can build around. Anthony Davis, when he got traded, they got back Brandon Ingram, who turned into an all-star the next year. And you also got drafted. So who in this trade package who are you going to build around? Spencer Dinwiddie set up his GoFundMe's. I think this is an awful trade. If you are James Harden and you somehow leverage the Houston Rockets into allowing this trade to go through, then it's disgraceful, because it's not like his contract's expiring and he's saying, trade me or I'm just going to opt out and leave. He still has years left on his deal. It's absolutely blowing my mind how that the Houston Rockets can't get a better trade package for James Harden than what the Nets are currently offering.
BJ, Mo's target for next year, the Rockets head office is already on that hit list.
I can see Mo has already circled the wagons here. He already has circled the thing that he's going for.
Hey, man, I'm rooting for them to get a good trade come through. Look, I'm representing today, but what I'm saying is, if you're trading away one of the best players in the league, surely we've seen, look at what the Bucks gave up yesterday for Drew Holiday. That's 3 future first rounders. Let's look at even for Bogdanovich, they're giving up picks. Covington, Portland gave up a pick. Surely you can get better picks, because if James Harden goes to the Brooklyn Nets, all of their draft picks are going to be at the very end of the draft. They're going to be picking 30th overall. So you're really going to do a rebuild with a bunch of late first round picks? Man, I feel like they can get a better package. There's got to be someone out there in the NBA. I personally want to see Philly trade Simmons for Harden and get that Harden and Embiid pick and roll going. But surely there is another team out there who can offer you a young, promising piece and better draft picks than what the Brooklyn Nets can offer.